And we're back with another episode of Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Inside Sports Fantasy Football. The Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Dig on America, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, The Lakers Fast Break, or anything that we do with our ton of great shows that you can go ahead and support today. Plus, if you have questions out there for us at any time at all on the Inside Sports Fantasy Football scene, you can go ahead and just give us a shout out and support us today on social media at isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter. And if you can support all of that, it is sincerely appreciated. We wanted to go ahead and sneak in another episode because it is last minute draft time. We're down to the final couple weeks before the regular season starts on September 8th. So we know you are just out there pondering over your rosters, pondering over your lists, looking at how to go ahead and formulate a strategy, and even newbies out there are looking forward to going ahead and maybe getting into their first or second or third drafts, just really still kind of new to the game. But do you have a plan going into action for your upcoming fantasy football draft? We'll talk about that coming up on today's show because I've got a returning man indeed. You got to go ahead and check out his show, Dig on America, as it goes ahead and hits many episodes each and every month. Every week, you can go ahead and check out the new 1 or 2 episodes a week I see hitting all the time. Go ahead and check out that today on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It is the mastermind behind Dig on America, Jasen Dutch. And Jason, great to have you back on the program.
Not sure if I'm a mastermind or not, but thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, you were the mastermind indeed. You're pulling a lot of those strings.
Yeah, you always happy to be with Pop Culture Cosmos. You guys have been close buddies in the pod world for 4 years now. So back when we were Voice from the Underground. So we'll always be appreciative of that.
Absolutely. And you're a brave man wearing that Chicago Bears t-shirt. You know that's going to be a interesting season ahead, per se. Justin Fields. Yeah. He's been a source of quite a bit of conversation, I should say, over the past few weeks, and I'll just leave it at that. But you and I both have our leagues that we've got going down, and I know a lot of people have got their leagues set up for the next couple of weeks because it's getting down to the nitty-gritty when it comes to the regular season around the corner. So people are starting to think about seriously how they're going to formulate a strategy for the drafts, how they're going to go ahead about it, what things they should lean into. I've been talking to Chris Sardieri from the Domination Sports Nation about it the past couple of weeks, but it's always good to get different perspectives just so people have a clearer idea. Your thoughts on how you approach your last-minute fantasy football draft?
Well, I have my first of 2 redraft leagues Sunday, so this is well-timed. Though of the 10 leagues that I am in, 8 to 10 leagues I'm in, somewhere in that ballpark, I'm only in 2 redraft leagues. I'm more of a dynasty player. So like my dynasty drafts are all done. I did them in, May. So May and June is when those were all, like early May till mid-June. So if you're a dynasty player, you probably know that it's a different time frame. A couple startup leagues going right now, but as far as this season, this looks like it's going to be a pretty exciting season. And there's a lot of movement within the draft boards right now, especially at the running back position, as far as to when, where certain running backs are going to go. As far as strategy this year, Usually, I kind of look at the draft every year, and I'm assuming for the context of these conversations, Gerald, that we're going to be looking at 1 QB leagues. If you happen to be in a 2 QB league, you should always take 2 of your first 4 picks should always be a quarterback. If you are not in a 2 QB league, then obviously that is, I think, what we'll focus on here today.
Well, that's what I'm going to ask you. If you are in a 2 QB league, although they're not as definitely near as common as a 1 QB league, I mean, with
unless you're in Dynasty. If you're in Dynasty, they're all 2 QB leagues. Yeah.
This is true. This is true. But with the abundance of quarterbacks and the pass happy league that we're now in the NFL, is it so is it so important to get 2 quarterbacks up front right away? Because the league to me seems to be having more successful quarterbacks, even when you go down to 10, 15, even close to 20 as far as productive quarterbacks that can actually be competitive in your league.
Are you talking about in a 2 QB league or a 1?
In a 2 QB league.
In a, no,
you don't need to worry about that.
So in a 2 QB league, if that's what you're doing, or a super flex, if you don't know what super flex is, it's kind of a de facto 2 QB league, though if you have a QB on bye, you could start a wide receiver there. So if you're in a 2 QB league or a super flex, you have a lot of quarterbacks, but like which ones are super dependable, right? So you're going to have, assuming that you're in a 10 or 12 man league, which most people are, if you're in a 14 man league, then you really got to go for quarterback real early. But most leagues are 12 man leagues these days, a few 10 manners out there. In a 12 man league, you should probably have Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, and Prescott going in the first round. Prescott generally ends up going around pick 11. Allen, Herbert, Burrow, and Mahomes are going to go before Prescott. And, of the 12 teams in the league, that means that basically you're looking at the minimum 5 to 6 quarterbacks going in the first round. You're going to have a few people, JT, Jonathan Taylor might go number 1. He might go, I've seen him go as late as number 7 in startup drafts. Now, again, if you're in a dynasty league, you're not worried about this, but if you're in a startup league, the 2 or a startup dynasty league or a redraft league, then that's the way that's going to go. The one guy that I'm not sold on being in the first round, who goes in the first round a lot, is Kyler Murray. I owned Kyler Murray last year. I have nothing against Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray is a very talented quarterback, and I think he has a lot more tools in place this year. But last year's performance still is heavy on my mind. So I probably personally would pass on Kyler Murray until Prescott is gone. I like the weapons that Herbert has, at least for this year. Keenan Allen is getting old. This is probably his last year at an elite level. You have, obviously Josh Allen is going to be throwing lights out, though they have been focusing a little bit more on the running game lately, but you have to see it first. Like, we only saw them run the ball for the last 4 or 5 games of last year. Singletary is not getting a lot of love right now, at least not as much as you would think he would be. If you compare him to other guys who ended off last year really hot, most notably St. Brown, people are investing mid-first round picks in Dynasty in St. Brown. St. Brown is going substantially higher than I think he deserves to go in redraft leagues. But especially when you consider that everything St. Brown did at the end of last year was when Swift was out, Hawkinson was out, and the Lions were out of it, right? And now you add those 2 guys being back with the fact that they've spent a first round pick on a wide receiver, who granted will be hurt the first 4 to 8 games, but will be in Jameson Williams, who's very talented. I'm not in, especially in a dynasty league, but even in a redraft, I'm not spending a big pick on Austin St. Brown. But Singletary, who also was fantastic for that exact same time frame that St. Brown was, not getting that love. The running back that they selected in the draft, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he is a pass catching specialist. Now it's possible that he could end up being the bell cow. I just don't see that being the case. I think it's going to be Singletary's job to lose. And I'm not sure why he's going as low as he is. But to jump back into the question itself, unless you're taking Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson or DeAndre Swift in a 2 QB league, I'm going with a quarterback, at least 2 of my first 3 picks, because once you get past really the 2020 rookie class, I'm sorry, the 2021 rookie class, which is of course Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, who I put at the end of that class, Justin Fields, and Mac, what's his name? Mac Jones.
Yes, Mac Jones for the Patriots, everyone out there.
Yeah, so those and Trevor Lawrence, right? Those were the 5 quarterbacks that were the big time picks in the 2021 rookie draft. Once you get past those guys, like, are you going to really count on David Carr? I'm not sure you're going to do that. I'm not sure you're going to count on David Carr. Maybe you will with the addition of Devontae Adams coming in. But it's the end. The end of the list of QBs is really not all that dependable to me. I mean, you don't want to be in a situation where you're ending up with Jason Goff or Davis Mills as your QB2. So wide receiver is so deep this year and so uncertain this year that you are probably just as well off waiting for wide receiver as you would be with the exception of like the 3-4 guys, your Chases of the world and stuff like that, your Justin Jeffersons of the world. Wide receiver for me is being put off. So my strategy this year is, and this goes for 2 QB leagues, obviously, but also in 1 QB leagues, running back early. I usually don't like to do that. I am a strong proponent of the 0 RB draft strategy. I have always been a strong proponent of the 0 RB draft strategy. But this year and last year have been different, guys. There are too many split backfields out there, especially this year. And some of the ones that used to be not split, like Dallas, is now going to be split. Green Bay, like those 2 teams 2 years ago, it was Ezekiel Elliott and Aaron Jones. Those were one running back backfields. Now they are both split backfields, right? So you're getting less and less of these split backfield of these bell cow backfields. You really only have a few. You have Le'Veon Bell. You have Najee Harris, the new Le'Veon Bell. You have DeAndre Swift, and you have Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor has been the guy that's been identified in most drafts as being at the top of the charts.
In a redraft league with 1 quarterback, if you don't take Jonathan Taylor number 1, you shouldn't be playing fantasy football. And I said that last year. I had JT in 3 leagues last year because I had top 3 picks, and I took him, with the top 3 picks because I could see it coming. And a lot of people went with other players. I did very well last year in fantasy because now there is no JT in the weeds this year. Like there's no like JT in waiting, unless you think that I'm blanking on his name from the Jets, the rookie, number 1.
I know who you're talking about.
I'm in work mode right now, and I'm fantasy football mode. But you guys know who I'm talking about. The running back from the
You're talking about Breece Hall?
Breece Hall, thank you very much. Jeez Louise, man, my brain's not working. So unless you think Breece Hall has got that potential, I don't. I think that Michael Carter is still going to get a substantial amount of the carries there. So you want to go with running back earlier. You want to get as many of these guys as of these top running backs as possible on your fantasy team in a 1 QB league. as quickly as you can, because you're going to start running into situations where you don't have any running back to take very, 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 very quickly in this particular year. So my suggestion is go running back early. And then maybe, I would actually be so daring to say that in a 1 quarterback league, especially if it's a 12-man league, you might want to take a running back 3 of your first 4 picks. And this is coming from a guy who's a 0 RB guy. So this is a drastic difference for me from what I would normally suggest people to do. I'm just looking at a couple of teams here in a 12-man league that I play in. One guy here, who waited for quarterback or waited for running back, his 2 starters are Raheem Mostert and Keyshawn Vaughn. Mm-hmm. That's not going to cut it, and he, now the rest of his, this is a 2 QB league, but his quarterbacks are Mahomes and Wilson. He's super strong at wide receiver, but his running backs are really, 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 really weak. Another team here I'm looking at has ended up with Devin Harris and Kenneth Walker, the rookie from Michigan State, who's on Seattle. I'm not even convinced Kenneth Walker is going to beat Rashard Penny out for the starting job, at least for the first half of the year. Seattle's not going to be that competitive this year. So, you definitely want to go in. And I had one league where I'd picked and I went with this strategy. I spent my first 3 picks on running backs. I ended up with DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, and Christian McCaffrey. Now you might say, well, now that is a 10-man league, I will tell you. So it's a little bit unfair, but McCaffrey's been dropping. I think I took Swift and Mixon at the, I had the 8th pick. So Swift and then Mixon there, and then McCaffrey fell a little bit, so it was easy to take him. That was very lucky in a 10-man league, so I don't expect a lot of people to get those results. But still, it's an example of, look at my 3 running backs compared to those other teams. Okay. And I was still able to fill in my receivers with guys who is my receivers on this team. I have Chris Godwin, Adam Thielen, T. Higgins. So that's still pretty good receivers, and with those running backs. So I have other leagues I'm in where it's maybe not as good, but that's just one example where that strategy I think will probably work out for me this year.
Once again, it's Jasen Dutch. You got to go ahead and check him out today on the Dig on America podcast. Some very insightful thoughts right there. I mean, do you see the trends going in, like you're talking about with the 0 RB options that are out there, and there are very few singular backs that are going to dominate a backfield? Is this a trend you see continuing as we delve into more of a pass-oriented offense from most NFL teams?
I think that everyone knows that that's the case, right? Like that's not a secret at this point anymore. These coaches, they want to conserve their running backs. Even Pittsburgh, who had Najee Harris, just had an unconscionable amount of carries last year. They're talking about getting other guys involved in their backfield. They have actually 3 other guys who might get touches there in Pittsburgh. So if you kind of look through, I was trying to find a rankings list here, but I'll just do it this way. So if you just kind of look through, we'll touch on a few of them here. James Conner, here's a good example. James Conner in redraft is a pretty strong pick this year. He has a pretty decent chance of being a bell cow. So now he is also older. He's 27, and he's got a long injury history, right? So you might want to look at a Keontae Ingram in a later pick to back him up. But James Conner is certainly worth a top 5 round, going in the first top 5 rounds this year. Breece Hall, as I said before, I would be a little bit more skeptical of, because I don't think that he's going to earn all of that right away. I think Michael Carter and him are going to split that backfield. Damian Harris, that's a super split backfield with Ramondre Stevenson.
Mhm.
So you have to be a little bit skeptical of that one. A couple other ones here. Alvin Kamara is likely going to be suspended for the beginning of the year, so he's going to drop down in the draft. You have, who's going to invest a big pick in Mark Ingram? I don't know who. There is a promising rookie, Abram Smith, there, who was paid more than any other undrafted free agent. So he might turn into something. Who knows? It's worth a late round pick. But Dalvin Cook, he's getting up there in age. We've already seen signs of a split backfield coming with Madison there, and then they've got another young guy whose name I forget at the moment. Josh Jacobs is in his last year of his contract. They have, was it Zachary Davis, or I forget the name of the rookie that they drafted. Because like I said, I just got off work like 5 minutes before I jumped on the show, so I'm not in football mode yet. But Jacobs, I can tell you for sure, is in the last year of his contract. They are not renewing his contract. So he is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. It's not to say the Raiders won't re-sign him, but, is it likely that they're going to – there's two ways they can go. They can either try to figure out who's going to be their future running back, or they can run him into the ground because they know they're going to go in a different direction next year. If you think they're going to run him into the ground because they're going to be competitive, then Josh Jacobs might have a fantastic year. So just something to think about, but that's more of like your perspective on that. Looking at a couple other ones here. Why do I keep clicking on the same guy? AJ Dillon, Travis. Okay, let's talk about a couple of these situations. Travis Etienne versus James Robinson. James Robinson, Illinois State alumni. I love Illinois State. I went there for a short time. I also like Travis Etienne a lot. The buzz on ETN right now is high. Super, super high buzz. He was a couple spots below McCaffrey and Akers. He's going equal to McCaffrey and Akers right now. Dobbins has fallen down a little bit as part of that. Gibson has fallen down a little bit as part of that. But in fact, I had a league where a guy traded me Gibson. 6-7 months ago, I offered him an ETN for Gibson in a dynasty league. He told me to piss off. He just traded me Gibson and a first-round pick for ETN. So now Gibson is falling off, but I also got Brian Robinson in that deal. So I feel I could care less who wins the competition as long as I have the starter, right? But watch that. So watch what's going on in Washington. Watch what's going on in Jacksonville. Those are two interesting situations. Where I think you're going to probably start out with Gibson and ETN in the lead of those two situations to start the year. But James Robinson is very, very talented. He's had nothing but success over 2 years, even with having different coaching staffs. So the odds are good that Robinson is not going to just be phased out, and that you're not just going to see ETN be the bell cow there, assuming Robinson is able to come back without any issues. Shut me up at any time.
No, you're good, man, because people need to know these different formats, because I know Chris Sardieri has mentioned many of the same players that you look for as far as in your fantasy league drafts. The competitions, they're still tight. They're being finalized, and that's one thing. That's one reason why, if anybody has the versatility to go a little bit later towards the end of the preseason, because some of these camp battles are still going underway, I would highly recommend maybe leaning towards getting those drafts done as close to the beginning of the season as possible.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Let's push. Okay, Joe Mixon, definitely worth an early pick. McCaffrey, worth an early pick, although be very, very sure to get Dante Foreman and or Chuba Hubbard. Like, if you decide to take McCaffrey, you're kind of investing 3 picks, because you have to think about getting Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard, because I'm not sure really which of them is going to be the actual backup. And the last thing you want to do is have the wrong one. And I'm big on handcuffs, guys. So if you're not, then ignore that. But AJ Dillon is certainly on the rise. Jones will probably have a decent year this year, but after that, he's going to be done. I really like Joe Mixon for this year. I really like DeAndre Swift for this year. Both those guys are worth a first-round pick or early second-round pick. Probably first-round picks for both of those guys. Derrick Henry, Javonte Williams. Let's talk about these two guys next. Derrick Henry, Javonte Williams, Nick Chubb. Okay, so Nick Chubb, certainly worth an early pick. I would say not a first. Mid-second is where I would try to get Nick Chubb because of the Kareem Hunt factor. Kareem Hunt wanted to trade, and then he didn't, and then it didn't last long. What's going on with quarterback there? We now know with Watson. And, so they're going to probably end up running the ball a lot early in the year. Nick Chubb looking like a very, very strong pick, and Hunt, really, really solid pick for this 8th, 9th, 10th round. Ezekiel Elliott, to me, is a fade, big time. I want nothing to do with Ezekiel Elliott in any format, personally.
See, that seems to be the continuing trend for Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I was out on him last year, thankfully. But I'm not out on Pollard, though. You want to take Pollard in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round? I wouldn't say 3rd, 4th or 5th round. Then
4th or 5th round for me is when I would start looking at him.
Yeah, knock yourself out. Derrick Henry, to me, is a fade. I'm not investing a first-round pick in Derrick Henry, especially if you're.
Is it because of the injury status? Because he'll still be a primary key to that offense.
He's 29 years old.
Mm.
As they said in Doctor Strange, as Mordo says, the bill comes due.
It does.
So do I think he's a bum? No, I don't think that. I'm not investing a top pick when I can go with Mixon or Taylor or Chubb or, one of the, I would prefer to go with those guys. So yeah, it's an injury thing, but it's an age injury thing. Javonte Williams looked really good until they re-signed Gordon. All signs indicate it's going to be a split backfield, which is really, really disappointing because I really thought this was going to be a year for, I really thought this was going to be a year for Javonte Williams to really shine. Cam Akers, I'm big, huge buy. Like I'm buy all day on Cam Akers. I think Darrell Henderson sucks. He's a plotter. Like when he was the bell cow, he wasn't good. I'm big on Cam Akers if he can stay healthy. J.K. Dobbins, there's some worry there. Just grab Gus Edwards. I think J.K. Dobbins has boatloads of talent. So, he's certainly somebody. Akers and Dobbins are definitely two guys I would target in the first 3 rounds. Last but not least, I'm just taking a look at Miles Sanders. Who knows, right? Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibson. Those guys are like and actually here's 4 guys to talk about. Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibson, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley. Let's round out with those guys. Eckler, also old, also really, really good. So like Eckler, you kind of have to invest in. Saquon Barkley, this is his last year with the Giants in all likelihood. You've got some injury risks there. You kind of got to be very, very careful with Saquon Barkley, but we all know that the talent is there. Who else did I mention? Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson, I'm passing on at the moment. Just because that situation seems to be devolving really, really fast. Mm-hmm. And it kind of came in the last 3 weeks. So like, we'll have to see. It could turn out that Antonio Gibson is still a top 12 fantasy asset at running back. But if you had to bet today, you're kind of worrying on that bet. And I would rather get him in the 6th round than I would blow a 3rd or 4th rounder on him. If I can get Antonio Gibson in the late 5th, 6th, early 7th rounds, and then follow that up a round or two later with Brian Robinson, I'm feeling real good.
There
Real
you go.
good. I think the last person I want to talk about is not a running back, and that is really a big. I want to throw a lot of caution to the wind on this guy. Debo. He's been unhappy. He doesn't want the ball as much, which is weird for a wide receiver. He didn't get the contract he wanted. He didn't get traded. And if you recall last year, and I'll put this in dynasty perspective, last year I offered a guy a 2nd-round rookie pick for Debo Samuel. And the guy was like, yeah, I'll take that deal. And then he ended up trading with somebody else for like a 2nd-round pick that was like 2 spots higher. So I think he went for like pick 2-6 in dynasty.
A high second-round draft pick.
A high 2nd-round draft pick is what Debo was worth off-season last year. He's going for 2 first-rounders now. I am out, especially without, with having a new quarterback there. You've got Kittle. He could have another fantastic year, and I like Debo. I'm just not sure that I'm going to put him in the same conversation with CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, which people are doing right now. And I'm a little bit concerned about. So I would be out completely on Debo, because by the time that I would think that he'd be worth taking, which would be 3rd round, he's going to be gone for sure. So, and I will tell you this, I really, really like what I'm seeing out of both of the wide receivers that the Packers took, Doubs and Watson, though Watson's been a little bit hurt. But and I really like what I'm seeing out of Jalen Tolbert from Dallas, the rookie. So those are a couple of guys to keep your eyes on. KJ Osborne is a guy to keep your eye on. Josh Palmer is a guy to keep your eye on for your late round picks. So, and I'm sorry, there was 2 running backs that we missed. Chase Edmonds and Singletary. I'm a buy on both of those.
Edmonds gets mentioned quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm a buy on both of those guys for sure. I think Singletary, you can get Singletary in the 6th, 7th round. It's a steal. Like I told you, the rookie that they took, again, I forget his name. Was it Ward or something? He's good. But remember, they were trying to sign McKissick and they missed out on him. So then they ended up getting this guy who's a 3rd down specialist. Yeah. Could take the job. But I think Singletary is the guy, at least for the first half to 3/4 of the year, until he proves otherwise. I think Zach Moss is out. And then Chase Edmonds, he's worth a take, but you're probably looking at a 7th rounder with a lot of upside there. They paid him a good amount of money. They paid him starter money. So, but they have so many running backs in Miami. It is ghastly. You have Mostert, you have the 2 guys that were there last year, Salvon Ahmed and Gaskin, and you have one other guy that they brought in too that is escaped. Sonny Michel. Uh-huh. So like you've got a lot of running backs in Miami.
It's a crowded backfield, that's for sure.
So be careful with Edmonds, but I like him. I think if you got a chance to take him in 7th, 8th, 9th round, you take him all day long. I'm sure there were guys that I missed, but yeah, there you go. That's the Jason Mummert draft strategy this year.
That covers a broad spectrum.
Yep.
Yeah.
And wide receivers, like we didn't even really go over that much wide receiver. There's from like it's, to me, it stops at Chase Claypool. Anyone after Chase Claypool is probably not an elite, even if Claypool even is. But like the Claypool is like receiver 40. So like there's
the depth
40,
is still
the depth is enough where if you have Claypool as your wide receiver 3 and you got him at like wide receiver 39, 40, I think you did really good, especially if you packed up at running back. So you're going to kind of go like running back, wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, quarterback. something like that in a 1 QB league is about what you might want to do. But make sure you get your handcuffs.
Well, there you go, indeed. But once again, it's Jasen Dutch of Dig On America. Very good in helping you formulate your plan for your upcoming draft. I know they're coming up right away for everyone out there. So please go ahead and check out what he's doing at Dig On America to go ahead and check out what he's doing there, wherever you get your podcast. Plus, also as well, you can go ahead if you have any questions for us on your fantasy football draft or anything in regards to your fantasy football league, trades, waiver wire, upcoming lineups as we get into the fantasy football season, go ahead and hit us up. isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter. My friend, before we head on out, you got to go ahead and get everyone the lowdown on the Dig on America. What's it all about and why people should check out Dig on America?
Well, if you're political, that's the show for you. If you're on the left, at least. I encourage people on the right to watch. I don't expect them to, but yeah, we are a very left-leaning political show, but we also are. I think we're fact-based. So we have about 4 shows. We have a show on Wednesday on Twitch. We have a show on Thursday on Twitch. We have a show on Friday on Twitch, and then we have a show on Sunday on Twitch with former candidate from Fresno, Lauren Hubbard, who hosts basically he interviews candidates running for office on Sunday afternoon. So we have a lot of content out there. We are available at twitch.tv/Dig on America or youtube.com/Dig on America, or you can go to digonamerica.com or at Twitter @Dig on America and get your political content and have a little fun. We like to have a little fun, talk a little bit of comic books once in a while too. A little sports makes its way in here and there. But 90% of what you're going to hear is political rantings and legal analysis and history. We are very, very, very history based. And that is because if you don't know your history, this goes for fantasy football, by the way, as well. If you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more on that. Plus, a little bit of cigar talk as well.
Yes, so that's taken off the channel now. But Big Haas is now, because we are now affiliates with Twitch, we have to no tobacco. So no tobacco promotion. So if you are a cigar fan, though, we still do that. It's on, or I'm sorry, not with Twitch, with YouTube, but YouTube, you can just search for Big Haas's Humidor, HASS, Big Haas Humidor, however you want to say it. And you'll find that YouTube channel. And he goes very, very late on Wednesdays around midnight Central Time. So, but new cigar review every week if you like cigars, and he does a fantastic job reviewing them.
Once again, it's the whole Dig on America universe. Please go ahead and check it out today on Twitch, YouTube, and digonamerica.com. Well, my friend, you've enlightened us once again this year with your draft strategies. I hope you can come back during the course of the season talking about the different things that are going on in the NFL and how people need to react to it. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
No, it's going to be a fun season. There's a lot of changes, obviously, in this off season. Really, the main thing for me to look at, and I didn't mention this before, but I think anyone with a brain is fading Adams and Tyreek Hill. From where they were last year. I don't think that I need to even say that, but it will be that doesn't mean they're bums. But it will be very interesting to see how those players affect in Adams's case, Waller, and in Hill's case, Waddle, and how those receptions, those touches are divvied out, seeing especially as there is not exactly elite quarterbacks there. Carr is probably better than Tua. And then you have a very, very similar situation in Philadelphia. So with them acquiring A.J. Brown to sit next to Devontae Adams with Jalen Hurts. So those 3 situations are going to be super, super interesting. And the last one that's really super interesting to me is probably going to be how does Drake London and Treylon Burks develop in Atlanta and Tennessee respectively. So lots to look at, lots of change. I think it's going to be a super, super fun year.
I think so as well, but hopefully you'll be able to come on the show whenever you're available to go ahead and be a part of the fun right here at Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Jasen Dutch, again from Dig on America. Please go ahead and check out his great shows today at Dig on America, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, digonamerica.com. Looking forward to another great season of fantasy football. If you're going ahead this weekend with your fantasy football draft, I wish you the best of luck. Make sure you go into it as prepared as possible, and make sure you continue to listen to us for the greatest updates in the world on the world of fantasy football right here at Inside Sports